All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Citizen Council live stream, adding Brandy Martindale.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Man, I had the last minute setting this up. My internet was down, and holy smokes, I had to reboot the computer and all that 1 minute before the show. So,
well, good work. You got it going.
I did. I think Perry Holman's here we go. Hey Perry, how's it going?
Going all right.
Hey Perry.
Hey.
Got the whole gang back together.
Oh yeah, cheers to that, you guys.
How's it going, Perry?
Not too bad. Busy.
Busy's good. So I don't have anything totally planned for the show. I know we can I've got a 15-minute or so interview with Brandon Sada. He's running for Bay Area Hospital Board. We could play that. I could also upload that as like a separate video. That was a pretty cool interview I did with him. We covered a lot of stuff in like 15 to 20 minutes. Also did I guess it was about a week and a half ago, Perry and I went and toured the campus, the woods around the campus at Southwestern Oregon Community College. So we have that video that's like 7 minutes long. But I, kind of wanted to leave it up to you guys too. If you have stuff that you wanted to talk about. I know we've been, all three of us have been talking about conservative political party operational stuff online recently. Political parties are supposed to be there to support people through the leadership and political process of our community development, and we're lacking. The Democrats are doing a wonderful job promoting their people and organizing, and I commend them for that. They're doing an actual fantastic job, and I think the conservative and Republican side of things have to step up their game a little bit. So what do you guys think about that?
I think you're being nice.
I am.
So
yeah, I think you're being super polite.
I am not a Republican. I decided to get on their Facebook page group, joined it, just see what's going on, because if you look around, they're non-existent, and all it does is enforce the fact that they do not exist. They're hiding in some hole somewhere in Canada and will not come out. And then David Brock Smith decides to endorse and that's Republican Party doesn't say anything about that. They just ignore it. It's unbelievable. That was
weird. That was really weird to have David Brock Smith jump into that. And I hope he read the comment section, because I did.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, because it's all that there is a Democrat Party here. That's all there is.
The biggest issue I had with the David Brock Smith, and it wasn't just David, it was also Court Boyce. They endorsed the incumbent candidates, not the conservative, not the new Republican endorsed candidates. Before any of the forums and before reaching out to any of us. I've spoken with David once in my life, never Court Boyce. It's a weird name. And Danessa, I know, has probably interacted with both of them, but Rick Coleman, who's also running for the SWAC board, has not interacted with either of them. They didn't reach out to him. That's just very strange. Like, you want to promote people within your party, you want to promote people within your community to step up for leadership roles, and even if let's say he has valid concerns, right? Let's say he has some valid concerns about me or my agenda or my platform. Apparently his concerns about my integrity, whatever it be, we can't talk about it. He's never, nothing.
He wouldn't address that with you before just like poo-pooing on you?
Right. And he has my phone number. He has my contact information. He has, he has every opportunity and availability to reach out. I'm not actually bitter, because honestly, I wouldn't accept an endorsement. I don't know Court Boyce, but in general, I wouldn't accept an endorsement from someone I don't know.
That's
But
fair.
it's just very strange Very strange.
So there's two major problems with what happened. Number one, the accusations cannot be proven because they're not true. You don't say things you don't do. You don't say things that are lies. You stick to what's true. And you have evidence to back it up, whatever you say. Number two, they're endorsing people that enable sexual predators. And it's flat out wrong.
I
Well,
mean,
they've
like,
lied on the details for sure.
did
Like
lie.
they've repeatedly said that Curtis Buell was 23 and his victims were 17. They're correct on half of that. His victims were 17. They were 17-year-old
He was
students.
30.
Well, he was 25. And
Oh,
the
okay.
last
I was
incident,
30.
the last alleged incident, he was on his 26th birthday. What a wonderful 26th birthday gift he gave to himself to give, perform on a 17-year-old student. Very interesting for his
I
17th
wonder
birthday
where I
or
read
20,
30 years
26th
old.
birthday. That was probably when he got out of prison, was when he was 30, maybe, because
Okay,
like
maybe.
trial and then prison. But anyways, point is that they're not telling the details. That's what they're spreading, and even just the fact that they're mentioning that shows that they're trying to minimize it, that it's okay. It's somehow okay for a 23-year-old teacher to have sexual relations with his 17-year-old students. That's not okay. It's not okay at any age.
For the people who were under the impression that he was a 23-year-old teacher who had a relationship with his 17-year-old student. And they kind of are like, it's not really the same. It's not predatory. It is a freaking man in power taking advantage of
Right.
a vulnerable woman. Well, the gender doesn't, sex doesn't matter, right? It could be vice versa. It's still gross. But the idea is it's a person in power taking advantage of a person who is vulnerable. Like, just stop trying to sleep with vulnerable people. Would be like a great value system to bring in.
Like a baseline value system.
Yeah,
But,
man.
and back to what Perry was saying, though, like they're saying things like that they're mandated by the state and federal laws to allow it. And they've never shown that. They've
Then
never
speak
shown
out.
like
Say,
a
guys.
state or federal law that makes them
That's true.
hire him. They kind of implied that they're not allowed to do a background check, or they're not allowed to exclude him from an applicant list because he's a sex offender. And maybe I'm uninformed, but they should definitely inform the public on that and show it to us. I haven't seen it anywhere. Right, Perry?
I've never
No.
seen anything. I've worked in fields that involve doing background checks, and that is something that I would never expect to come across in a fitness, because you determine fitness, right? This person is or is not fit for this position based on a risk assessment of their previous convictions. No one would ever recommend that you put as someone who has had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a minor in that position again.
What would be
There's
the point
no
of a
way.
background check? Like that's the thing you would want to find in a background check, to say, oh wow,
Yeah.
no.
You're not qualified.
Like anything. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't.
No one gets it. I mean, the only people that get it, I feel like, are people who maybe are so far removed from the situation that they maybe shouldn't have an opinion. Like, if you're that far removed from it where you just really, I don't know, man, or like don't have enough information. I don't know what it is. I've been trying to wrap my head around what would make someone think that this was okay. And none of them have really done a good job of explaining themselves to us. So we don't even have an opportunity to understand.
And that's the problem. If you cannot answer basic, simple questions, then you know you're not in the right.
Right? You should be able to stand up to any question and at least answer it from a place of honesty, personal integrity. Answer it for yourself. What does it mean to you?
So this was a good question we got from Megan. She's asking, who decides he's rehabilitated? So the straight answer is technically like the parole officer, I guess,
Parole
or
officer.
or the whoever hired him, like the college president who hired him. But I've been told that they got permission from his parole officer, that his parole officer, the parole board, decided that he wasn't like a violent reoffender or something, and that was what they went with. Personally, my own personal belief on it is that in that environment, if you're hiring for an interaction with minors or a position of authority over vulnerable population, that it should never, there's no rehabilitation for that. I mean, you can be rehabilitated and go back and have a somewhat normal life, but there's never a reason to hire a sex offender to work at a school. There just isn't. And even I would even go so far as to say I just don't understand why you would risk it, even having them drive a school bus or be a janitor or mow the lawn. I mean, it just doesn't, the risk is too, why risk it? There's so many people on this planet, there's so many talented individuals that we could reach out to bring in to educate our youth and be around our schools. Why would we risk it?
Why do you think they coined the phrase sacrifice to the altar of woke? How many children have been sexually assaulted because of these bullshit policies that want to apparently include sexual predators in the hiring pool? Like it's pretty crazy. And I want to know, where is their head at? Like, where was your mind? Did you stop and think? Like, did any red flags go up at all? I want to like hear their brain, like what was going on in there. And we're not even getting that.
Right. They're not available for any sort of dialogue, constructive or non-constructive.
Well,
what do you think, Perry? When does he get rehabilitated?
Well, not less than a year after he gets out of prison.
Right?
He got hired.
He hasn't even had a chance to prove himself, really.
No, he's still on probation, all of that.
Chris, were you able to confirm that the school hired him while he was still on probation?
So the court documents I have say that he would have been on probation for 5 years. I do not see any indication that was modified. And that he was hired somewhere around a year after getting out of prison. But, the court documents, when he was pleading for a reduced sentence, the court documents from his attorney or him, it came through his attorney, but they were essentially saying that he was going to he wanted to go back and work for I think it was his stepfather, had a cabinet making shop.
Or his uncle?
There was somebody in his family, and he was working for, that's what he did, because the school, obviously they took his license. He wasn't allowed to be at the school anymore in Eugene. So he was working as a cabinet maker. And this document explains how he really enjoys it. I believe whoever it was, his uncle or his stepdad or something like that, he wrote a letter saying that he's doing a wonderful job and they would love to hire him and have him do that. And it's like, instead of taking that course in life and being a cabinet maker, he decided to put himself, he had to have applied for this job. I mean, I don't want to even go there if somebody recruited him, but he had to have applied for this and wanted this in life. And he has climbed the ladder. He is now director. Of the adult learning program, like the GED and tutoring. Yeah.
Where the 17-year-olds go when they can't finish high school, because usually things are not ideal in that child's life. And who are the most common victims of sexual abuse? Children whose home lives are not very ideal, or like have a situation.
Alternative.
And of course, not all. I don't want to stigmatize anyone, but we know that kids that are in GED programs very often come from challenging circumstances. They are vulnerable.
It's pretty crazy.
I try not to get irrationally angry over it, because that's not healthy and productive for anybody. But
well, I'm sorry, people, that we talk about this we end up talking about it almost every single podcast, but it's insane, and it's something that needs to be dealt with.
we've got the one at the waterfall clinic. We've got, you know, the freaking serial rapist apparently that was running the gym where the school was sending it just keeps happening. So it's like, I think because people haven't talked about this issue for so long that they're just, it's deep seated, and we have to kind of like, we can't let people forget about it and sweep it under the rug, because they're going to. If we let this disappear, they're going to sweep it under the rug, and we're going to find out more of it was going on 5 years from now.
They've already swept it under the rug. Like, as far as they're concerned, this is over. It's been done, over. It's a non-issue. They're moving on. So it's up to us, the people, to say, no, you're not. No, you're not going to move on. And
Of
if
course
people are interested, there is a meeting next Monday, Monday, May 19th, at 4:30. The public open session is at 4:30. This is on the Coos campus. It's Tioga Hall. It's like all the way in the back of the campus, room 505. If you want to come and try and address the board, they're most likely not going to allow you to specifically address an issue with a specific employee, but I would encourage people to question them on their policy. Ask them to reconsider their policy, to actually pursue a creative solution to keeping people safe, because this is a safety issue. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling that they would put someone that has a predatory nature in that environment. And if they're claiming that they are forced to, well, go back to the drawing board and find another way around it.
If that's the case and they're being forced to do this, instead of rubbing elbows and taking smiley selfies with the people up in Salem, they should be, admonishing them. Is that the right word? Like, they should be calling them out aggressively. Like, these are the people who are trying to make us do these things that are not good for our community, but instead they're just all buddy. And again, they're going to sweep it under the rug because it's avoiding accountability for terrible leadership decisions. Like, my God, you guys. It's not even like, wow, well, it sounded good on paper. No, it sounds terrible on paper. All of it.
It's very easy to find an excuse to fire somebody. Nobody does their job perfectly with no breaking of any rules ever in their whole career. I guarantee you, there's a legitimate reason they could fire him.
Right.
Well, and they said that there have been no incidences during
That's
his
a lie.
entire career. And I have multiple people that have, I got to say these things carefully, multiple people that have alleged that there have been incident reports filed and that they've been ignored by the college. So I did
there's evidence to substantiate those claims, though, correct?
Correct. I have it from like a coach put me in touch with a former athlete who made that claim, and the coach remembers being part of that process, doesn't have the document, but remembers being part of the process where a complaint was filed, an investigation was done, an apology was made, but no one has the documents. And we've been trying to get them. I did a public records request asking for any and all incident reports that have been filed with regards to Curtis Buell, and it was denied. They said it was privileged information. It's confidential information. I don't agree with that, but let's just say it is, right? I asked, okay, well, if I'm not allowed to have the document, I would like to have at least the number of documents. How many?
Chris, I got to stop you for a minute. I
Yeah.
want to just communicate very clearly to every potential student, every current student, and every parent who has their student at SWAC or may consider sending their student to SWAC. I've seen the correspondence personally. If your daughter is assaulted, SWAC will bury it and refuse to release the complaint if asked. Just know that. And I'll put my own reputation because I've seen the substantiation. I've seen the whistleblower documents. What Chris is saying is true. So that's my message to the people of Coos County. If your child is abused, SWAC will bury it. And then when people try to dig it up because the abuser went on to hurt more people, SWAC will refuse to release that. So just do with that what you will, and know that, because kind of like made me sick to my stomach when you said that, Chris.
Yeah, no, they refuse to release the documents.
Disgusting.
And I'm not an attorney, so maybe they are exempt from release. I don't know, but let's just say they are, right? The number or the existence of those documents, that knowledge, that piece of information should not be exempt. There's no confidentiality. There's no private information in the acknowledgement of the existence of an incident report. Okay, so I asked them that. How many incident reports have been filed? They refused to provide that information. They again said it was exempt. They even checked with their attorney. That's crap, especially because
they're burying abuse.
The college released a statement a couple months ago claiming that the number is 0. And if you can claim that and release publicly that the number is 0, then you should be able to release whatever the new number is. If there's a new, let's say there's a new complaint, or let's say maybe you want to adjust that number because maybe it wasn't accurate, maybe, right? Then that number should not be privileged information. But they say it is, and this is your community college, people. This is your taxing district. If you're a property owner in Coos, Curry, and parts of Douglas County, you are paying property taxes to this college, and they are refusing to be transparent and release information on this. Yep. Period. And I know personally there is a current investigation underway at the community college for an incident. They have a it's called what's the name for it? It starts with an M. Anyways, it's essentially an incident report. Someone has made an allegation
I've seen it.
Of sexual
whistleblower document.
That it violated college policy for sexual harassment or sexual abuse. I'm not sure the exact terminology, but it was due to an inappropriate sexual relationship, alleged inappropriate sexual relationship with a teacher and a student. And that is currently underway, and they will not release that information. They won't release whether that is factual or not. I know it's factual because I've seen the documents, but the college needs to own up to that. If this is happening on their campus, they need to let the people know, especially when the people are asking questions.
These are such a vulnerable population of people, and the lack of transparency is shocking. When we know, and to the people at the college who are trying to bury this, you have whistleblowers. It's not going to work. Eventually, know this. It will all come out. It will all come out. And when it does, all of your names and everything that you've done to bury it will be known. So you can either choose to be part of the solution, or you can end up creating a giant problem for yourself. And that's the fact of it. There are so many people in these institutions that are so sick of the corruption that they've seen,
right?
That the amount of people that we're having reach out to us, and while we're going, and so Chris, I think we should kind of talk to people about the process of requesting documents and how working with a whistleblower works, and why you can't share things that are shared with you confidentially and things like that. Maybe you could kind of speak to that a little bit.
I mean, some of the stuff is private, like somebody's giving details on a sexual encounter that's I mean, it's extremely private and confidential, especially if it's in the beginning stages of being investigated and stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's we don't totally want to jump the gun on things like that. But when the college comes out, I believe it was in January, they made a statement that there have not been any incidences, period.
That's a lie.
Then so they're opening the door there. So they need to at least acknowledge whether that has changed or whether that was even accurate to begin with. That's something that needs to be addressed. Should the full document be available? Should these full statements with all the graphic details? I mean, I'm always for full transparency, but I could understand maybe some of it being redacted or held back. But the existence of an investigation or a prior investigation should be knowledge. But anyway, so yes, if someone comes to me and says, hey, look at this document, the first thing I do is request it from the agency, right? So that it's not me getting it directly from some whistleblower. Because I guess in this day and age, people could like make up fake documents, right? Or have it like 95% accurate, but they change some words here and there or something. So
and cost UPS a lot of money. So yeah, you're right.
Did it?
Little things can.
But yeah, so and then we have people that are watching this that have watched previous podcasts that work for the university, work for the college, and I just urge you people to give them hell. I mean, if this is upsetting to you and you know of the corruption and the toxic environment there, please stand up or reach out to us and help us help you to help us, and everybody all stand up, because they're clearly not listening to just one or two people. It's very easy for them to reply to one of my emails and say, no, we're not giving you this information. And even if it's illegal for them to do that, I'd have to sue them, right? I'd have to go and prove it in court that I have the right to have that information. And I'm not going to do that. It's just not worth anyone's time. Maybe someday, but right now, no. So
now, that being said, and Chris, stop me if you don't want me to talk about this. We are working with some potential major media outlets to put some information in their hands, because there is a chain of command type, like a confidentiality procedures that come with professional registered journalists. And so we are working with some contacts in the mainstream media sphere who can take these whistleblower documents and move forward with a in-depth kind of investigative journalism type piece. So while we may not necessarily be sharing things that have been sent to us confidentially, we may have an opportunity to use those documents to substantiate a story printed in a larger format.
Right. I mean, essentially, yeah, get it to a larger audience. Honestly, I'd rather not. Like a lot of this stuff, it makes our area look bad. It makes our college look bad. It probably, in some number makes people move out of the area or not move to the area or go to a different college. Like none of these are good things. So ideally, this would have just been handled, right? Like that's all we're asking.
Exactly.
And telling us to shut up and go away and that we don't know anything is not handling the situation. It's never going to handle the situation. Right. So, I mean, what they should do, if it truly is a situation where they were forced to do it, they need to stand up and have a backbone and fight the state on this. They need to help work with us and go public with the fact that they were forced. I don't think that's true.
What's going to happen when they move on politically to a higher level, and then the public finds out that they enabled all of this stuff to happen under their leadership? You're shooting yourself in the foot politically, people. And maybe some of these people have no ambition outside of Coos County, so they frankly just don't care enough to pick up their own doo-doo. But for the people who do have ambitions outside of Coos County, this is gonna come back on you. I mean, I'm I know that you and I probably come across as a little critical, very critical, Chris, but like I really do have people's best interests in mind. Like I really do want to see people be successful, but I look at this and I'm like, you can't sweep this under the rug. This
Right.
will not go away. This will haunt some people's careers for the rest of their life. And when people find out about this outside of Coos County, they're going to be pissed. There
I mean,
is not.
there's a hierarchy, right? Like it's not like everything's on the same
Yeah.
level. Like we can have a hard line on sex offenders at schools, right? So some of this we're talking
Right.
about is overlapping with Henry Delaney, owner of Northwest Fitness.
Right.
He's a multiple time sex offender. His latest conviction was, I believe, 2009. He pled guilty to, it was originally a rape charge, and he pled it down to like assault with a sex offense enhancement or something weird like that. But anyway, so he moves here from Washington after that incident and opens a gym. And the prior incident was he owned a gym in Washington, and the allegation was that he raped one of one of his customers, one of the girls, there was an initial consensual encounter, and then it became very
He was coerced
non-consensual.
into sex.
Sure.
She
But
explicitly said, I paused to touch on
yeah,
that because I do think it's worth pointing out that coercion is a real thing. It's a
oh, for
predatory
sure.
thing. Like she said in text messages that she didn't want to have sex, and then she like didn't want to go in the gym, and he talked her into it. She didn't want to take her pants off, and he talked her into it. And he just like slowly broke her
Right.
down. And I cannot emphasize enough how freaking gross that is. If a
It's not
woman tells
okay.
you no, just assume she's not playing a game and leave her alone. Like if she does want to play a game, don't date women like that. Don't have sex with women like that. Like I'm not trying to kink shame anybody, but like maybe establish a relationship where you have a safe word and shit before you do weird like boundary violation stuff. Because as a general rule, no means no. Like
Right.
this dude, he was already pressuring her into an unwanted sexual encounter before he actually raped her. He was
Let's even go a step
already.
further and be like, yes means yes. Because like you should be asking for permission, not just like doing what you want and waiting for someone to say
Yeah,
no. Right.
waiting
Like,
for no.
yeah,
Just
that's not okay either.
says no. It's gross, you know, and I'm like have been married for a while and are way out of that. But you know, being a young lady, it sucks to just have people hound you and like push it until you have to say no. And there are not, you know, there are a lot of great guys out there, but the few that do shit like Henry Delaney, you know, give a bad name to the rest of us. And I just want to put it out there to especially young women. It's not normal. It's not
Right.
like a thing that guys are supposed to do where you just like they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you finally say no. Here's an idea. Wait until she asks for the D. Because if she likes you and she wants your D, she will.
Oh, jeez. But well, anyways,
Just
um,
throw it out there, like.
so he moves here, opens a gym again, didn't learn, just like Curtis, he wanted to go right back into that environment. And people around here, like Rob Taylor, and a few other people, spoke out about it. They found out that he was a sex offender. It was around 2018, and they blasted it all over the internet. A lot of groups around here got upset about it. They called the schools, and because apparently he was getting city grants for urban renewal. He had gymnastics class, he had a wrestling class, he had programs, affiliations with the school, and it worked to a point, to an extent where they said, we're done. Okay, the school said, okay, we're done. We're going to cut ties with them. Well, then a couple of years later, COVID hits, and he utilized the COVID situation where Oregon's opened up and allowed online schooling, right? So he used that to open an online school at his gym. So essentially kids, from what I've been told, kids would come, instead of going to Marshfield, they would go to Henry Delaney's sex offender gym. And they'd be there all day. That was their week. And from like 8 in the morning till 1 to 3 in the afternoon, depending on the day. And they would do coursework and gym stuff. And one of his students got a scholarship from a local dentistry group. And one of the stipulations in that scholarship was that she gave back to the sex offender gym. And the way she would give back to this gym is by working in the morning and cleaning the gym. So she would go in early around 6 or 7 in the morning and be there just alone with Henry. And you can see where this is going, why this is a bad
Is she
idea.
the one?
I mean, I don't want to give too many details out, but this was obviously a bad idea, right? So this is not a good scenario. You have a sex offender running a gym, doubling as an online school for, I believe it was like 10 students from Marshfield. I think it was 6 females and 4 males. And some of these are children of high up people in our community. I don't want to give names, but these are people who were in the know, who knew what was going on, and they decided it was okay because they trusted, I guess, whoever. You have people like Melissa Cribbins, Joe Benetti,
Yes.
Jessica Engelke going around telling everybody that this is okay, that this gym is safe,
Chris.
that Henry's okay. He's a great guy. He's a great asset to our community. They would do PR stunts with him. They would have, young kids come and do book reading at the gym. He's just a wonderful community guy.
Yes.
Meanwhile, he's never resolved his predatory nature. And they interviewed the some prior what do you call them, coaches, some prior employees from the gym. They interviewed ex-students from the gym and current students at the gym, and all of them corroborated the claims. They all knew and they all saw him going around and being inappropriate with these young girls, slapping them on the ass, treating them different, getting really close to them during stretches and treatments, and a lot of weird, inappropriate behavior. Under no circumstance.
Overly.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with you, Brandy, but I'm not going to slap you on the ass, right?
You're not gonna
if you ask me to stretch you, I'm probably going to just say no in general, but I'm definitely not going to get that close, right? Like these, and we shouldn't make light of it. It's really bad, really, really bad. People, right?
Well,
like you can see why this is bad.
It in any other context, and it's like, yeah, that's a boundary violation. But I kind of want to go back to what you mentioned about these parents who sent their kids to this gym were told it was safe.
Yep.
And I hope that the leaders of Coos Bay and North Bend reflect on their actions and realize that you as leaders set the culture. And I know I keep banging the culture drum, and it's probably like, why the hell does she keep going on about this? Because culture is what communicated. It is made up of these things where we communicate, our leaders communicate to us what is safe and what is not safe. That is what makes up culture. So if you have leaders who are communicating to parents that a predator is safe, that is on your hands, leaders. I would feel very bad about myself if I had been in a position, if I had been a facilitator of that. And
right? Wouldn't you feel horrible?
Address it publicly. I would not be happy with myself. And I would probably step forward and address it publicly and beg the community for forgiveness because I effed up in pretty close to the worst way you can as a public leader.
You'd say, hey, I put my trust in the wrong people. I didn't know all the facts. Now I do. Something, right? Something. But we've heard nothing. We've heard radio silence. And I think you're being nice because
you're cowards.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm sorry. Joe Benetti, Drew Farmer, Jessica Engelke, Melissa Cribbins, these people who all vouched for this guy and were affiliated with him. Yeah, Drew, but come on.
He at least mentioned it.
Let's leave Drew out of it. That's a whole can of worms. But he's a great politician. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And then you have other people at the school. Like I addressed it at the school board meeting 2 days ago. And, so like who at the school knew? Like what did the superintendent, did people on the school board, were they aware of this? Have they vouched for this guy to parents that sent their kids there? Right? Like all these people at this point, because we've heard nothing, I'm done. It's too late. Anybody involved, you're done. I'm done with you. Like that is my line in the sand. You vouched for a guy and you didn't apologize to the community now that he's been rearrested with these allegations out there. I don't know. I can't go back.
All of the people that are coming forward and here's the thing that we should probably, this is a good point to just mention, that all of these victims are coming forward because there is a group of strong people supporting them. That is so important to realize, because it sucks to come forward as a victim. It is really a crappy process. I know because I've been there. And so for these women to come forward, the only way that they're enabled to do that is by strong people who are making them feel safe, because these predators are scary. They didn't come forward before because they didn't feel safe. That's another leadership failure. If people can't tell you the truth because they don't feel safe around you, what kind of leader are you?
Yep.
And you're right. None of them have had it. I would be bending over backwards to beg for forgiveness. Because, like, as bad as this was, and it's bad. Like, it's really bad. But people do make mistakes. And I think for the most part, a lot of us can be pretty understanding. But they should be begging for forgiveness publicly.
You'd think so, but we've heard nothing. No one. You're right. Drew Farmer, to give him an ounce of credit, is the only public official that I know remotely involved with this that has said anything online. I've had one school board member from Coos Bay reach out to me and say that they're appalled with the situation.
Yeah.
So, that's a thing. I think the school board's in a pickle because they partnered with him, so they actually can't speak publicly about him in a lot of circumstances. I think they could put out a unified message on the circumstance, or they could cut ties, right, and then put out a message. There has to be a way to do it. It's not like you can never talk about someone again.
Yeah, there has to be. I think people are just scared. People
crazy.
are just scared. They're afraid of damaging relationships because this is a small community, and we all just need to look each other in the eye and be like, fuck ups happened. Pardon my language. Mess ups happened. Acknowledge it. Move on, but let's make sure this doesn't ever happen again. It's just, to the leaders who did this, you have to look these parents in the eye, and you have to face these people. So you can't just pretend it didn't happen.
What happened to good old fashioned press conferences or even a press release? I mean, I don't know. I really don't get it in any of these circumstances. And then you have the college, right? To go back to Curtis, the college actually, in January, I think they put out a statement, but it was defending him. I mean, the opposite of what you would want.
They lied. They said that
they had lies. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw up a video here. This is from Mayor Jessica Engelke. It's her, the commissioner, Melissa Cribbins, who was commissioner at the time, and Joe Benetti, mayor of Coos Bay, Jessica Engelke, mayor of North Bend. This is at the gym, at Northwest Fitness Sex Offender Gym.
Is this still up?
Probably. I don't know. I haven't checked. But yeah, this is them in 2021 going there, showing the community that this is a safe, positive place to bring children. A sex offender owns this gym.
It just sucks because it could have gone to someone who isn't a serial rapist. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely mind-boggling to me. I mean, and they knew about it. These people knew about it at this time, and they're okay standing there supporting his gym and
I don't
being a
know
part
that
and
they
showing the
care.
community publicly that this is an okay, safe place to be. And Melissa Cribbins, who's on the left there, actually, I think it was 4 days before Henry's rearrest recently, like the past week, was defending him online. Henry Delaney's name randomly came up in a message thread on Facebook about the sex offender at SWAC, and she chimed in and kind of said, why is this relevant? And further, she said, when do we let me turn off this video. He's shouting in my ear. There we go. It came up and she was saying, at what point do we, it happened a long time ago, and at what point do we allow someone to, move on from their past? 4 days later, the guy is arrested on charges of sexual abuse with a minor. That's crazy. You don't move on from that. When you have a sex offense on your record, you don't get put back into an environment where you're in a position of authority over minors or anyone, really. Like, you really shouldn't.
You know what I mean?
You've messed up,
And that includes, and the reason I say vulnerable people is because I actually would like to see us include the very elderly in this population of people. Kind of off topic, but elder abuse is something that is not really, it's very common, and it's not really something we talk about. We don't talk about how vulnerable elderly people actually are, even just struggling in like day-to-day life, to like get across parking lots and things like that. They are very physically vulnerable. And so when I say vulnerable populations, I definitely mean to suggest that people who have been convicted of predatory crimes should never be placed in positions where they have power over elderly people either. So I kind of like, because a predator is a predator is a predator, man. You don't put people who take advantage of others in positions where they have power over vulnerable people.
Well, and we're also talking about like public funds, public organizations, right? Like, it's one thing if Henry Delaney wanted to open up a restaurant and hire minors to work at his restaurant. I don't think it'd be great. I wouldn't support it. I don't think the community would support it, and they should know about it, but he has the right to do that, right? Like, we're talking about, a public community college employing a sex offender to tutor minors. We're talking about the city partnering and the school district partnering, sending kids to spend the entire day with a sex offender's gym. That's insane. People like, please, can someone slap me? Am I wrong? Like, is that not the most insane thing? I never thought in my life I'd be sitting here talking about this.
Come on,
It's
Chris.
insane.
At what point do they get a second chance? Come on, Chris.
It's nuts. What is wrong with our leaders?
Do it again. At what point do they get the chance to potentially sacrifice another child to the altar of woke, where we include everybody and everything, and we don't judge or discriminate for any reason?
It's absolutely insane.
That it is pretty
we could sit here all day and complain and nothing's
be all
gonna happen.
baffled and dumbfounded, right? I know.
But really, nothing's going to happen unless we make it happen. So I think the easiest thing right now, we're in the midst of an election. It ends next Tuesday. So there are people in running for positions that could make a difference, right? I'm one of them. I'm on the ballot. There are other people that have taken a stand against this and said, we don't want sex offenders in these positions. And they're hoping to do something about it. They're hoping to change policy and change the conversation around this and get these other people out of these positions of power that are making these horrible decisions. So support them, research them. If you guys ever have questions, reach out to me, and I'll try and be as unbiased as possible. But again, I got to draw the line. That's bipartisan, right? It's nonpartisan. To not want sex offenders around, minors. That's,
I'm like Perry.
I mean,
I'm registered unaffiliated, and there are some things with the Oregon Republican Party that I will not align myself with. Only a couple. But I'm like Perry, I'm unaffiliated, and I feel like this is a completely nonpartisan issue. This is not, you just don't do it. I don't care what your little ideology and what your reasoning is. The research doesn't support it. There is no reason to do this.
Oh, and it's dangerous. Angela makes a point here. Curious how their insurance company would feel if they knew this school had hired a sex
They
offender.
had to know.
There's coverage they have for these situations. She has a feeling that from 25 years of insurance experience, they ask you if you know of any situations on your application, right? Like, have they talked with their insurance company? Have they talked with their lawyers? They were pretty tight-lipped when I went to the Coos Base school board meeting. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to answer me, but I actually was really nice about it. I said, look, I normally come here and I complain and I say a lot of things, but I'm not going to do that. There were like 10 to 15 students in the room. It just didn't feel right. Felt maybe a little too soon. So I just said, you know what, you guys know why I'm here. I'm here about Henry Delaney and get to the bottom of it. I'd like to understand what happened, because it should never happen again. And in order to make it never happen again, we have to understand how it happened in the first place. And we need to get to the bottom of it. So I said, I'm here. I want to have a constructive conversation with someone. Please reach out to me, anybody who's interested. And like I said, one school board member that I'm already familiar with reached out to me, and we've already talked about it. So it's I'm looking for somebody else, right? I'm looking for like superintendent level, somebody who's maybe going to be able to do something about it, or at least explain how it happened in the first place.
Yeah.
Nothing. Crickets. And is that a lawyer thing? Is that an insurance thing? Are they thinking they're going to get sued? Is that why they're being tight-lipped? Has it reached that level?
I hope the victim's family sues. It seems like lawsuits are the only thing that makes people get their shit together.
Yeah, I don't like that. I feel like we have enough talented people, passionate people in this community. We got to run for office. We got to put people, elevate them to positions where they are going to actually speak out for the community. We live in a representative democracy. So we need better representation. We need people to go on these boards and be on city council and the county commission and state level and actually represent the values in this community. Because I don't see that very often or at all.
It's weird.
And that's what we need.
You go out in your community and you talk about what people want to see. It is not what leadership talks about when you go to their meetings. When you go to like the Chamber of Commerce stuff, the where they advertise all of their little, ribbon cuttings, or, well, there's a local business. Those are pretty cool. There's a way they kind of have their city meetings where they celebrate all the things that they're building. Everything that they're very proud of. It sounds great. But when you go out and you talk to people in the community, it is not what people are worried about. And I feel like they're kind of off on their own agenda. They're off on their own vision for what they personally in their little group wants the community to look like, which is fine, but they can't have all the power. That's not it. And we see this power imbalance come up frequently. There was a power imbalance over the city of North Bend and Mayor Engelke and what she wanted and what the North Bend school board did. Well, Mayor Jessica Engelke then used the North Bend Facebook page to write a pretty scathing opinion about how they were politically motivated. That was an abuse of power because that school board does not have the same voice. They don't have the microphone that Mayor Engelke had. That was an abuse of power, and it does not reflect well on her at all. And I have been a supporter of her, and I've recently stepped back and kind of said, is this bullying? Because that didn't feel good to see her use a microphone that she would would deny the board didn't have the same platform, you know.
Right.
And so I see that a lot.
No, and she has put together a slate of candidates to run against that school board because they're trying to reverse the vote. They want to shove that project on everybody, even though
And I just,
there's no way if they went to the people, they
yes,
wouldn't vote for it.
and they want it. They
Right.
want it. And I totally support them in their right to fight for what they want. But they don't have the right to strip everyone else in the community of what they want and cancel out all of those voices so that they just push forward this one vision for the community. And it's worth noting that if we lived in a safer community, I don't think anyone would complain that much. If we lived in like a really low crime community, if this county got its crime under control, I don't think people would complain about the rest of the stuff. But our quality of life is such shit right now. People's cars getting broken into constantly, packages getting stolen constantly, people being accosted, having people break into their car while they're in it, break into their home while they're in it. I could go on, you know, of course.
It's constant. You look
It's
around
constant.
and it's constant. And then you add on top of it that there's, you know, that the city and county are interacting with sex offenders, hiring them into positions. I mean, it's too much. It really is. But and the other thing I've noticed going to some of these meetings, or all of them, they spend so much time trying to be friends. Like so much time and energy is spent trying to just be so friendly and happy at these meetings with everybody. And that's just not
Do you think
productive.
it's a sign of
It's
do you
not.
think it's an insecurity?
I don't know what, yeah, it's a lot of things, but you know what I mean? Like you go to these meetings and everybody's buddy buddy and we're all friendly. And it's like, it's one thing to be cordial and you don't have to be nasty, but like, we're here to discuss business, right? Like we're not here to be friends. Like I went to the
I
Coos
know
Bay
exactly
school
what you're
board meeting
talking about.
and it was the worst one of them all. I mean, they spent over an hour just, and they're there for the kids. Like it is a school district, you're there for the kids, but like they spend so much time at these meetings just talking about, oh, it's we're going to appreciate this teacher and appreciate this kid and this and that. And like there is a time and a place for that, like assemblies. Like when I was, you'd have an assembly or you'd put out a student newspaper and talk about it. But at a school board meeting, like they spent like over an hour discussing all these like happy-go-lucky things, and then such a little amount of time was discussed that I believe that the number was 50. They've had a drop in 50 enrollments in the past month. That's Can we talk about that some more? Can there be more discussion? Like when a student stood up and talked about some part of the debate team, which is cool. Like it's cool that kids do debate. I was intrigued by the conversation, but like almost every school board member is asking the kids questions. Then all of a sudden you have the finance director talking about how we've had a plummet in enrollment and there's very little questions. There's very little talk around it. And it's like things like that bother me. You know,
They're being
you're not
conflict
there for the
avoidant.
right reasons. Right.
They're
Conflict
being
avoidance.
conflict avoidant because they're just trying to enjoy their life,
Yep.
and they don't
They're complacent.
So we are, you know, people are conflict avoidant, and I got to tell you. So I had this amazing interaction. I think her name was Shannon or Sharon. Where I posted, I was really, really pissed about the conversation that I had with the Republican people coordinator or whatever. It was such a
Julie.
trash. It was absolute garbage. I'm a little bit baffled. So this lady,
Yep.
I posted the conversation because I'm like, F this.
Right.
It's totally unacceptable. But this lady was like kind of pushing back, and then I pushed back, and we went back and forth and back and forth. And we eventually ended up having this conversation where I'm like, we need to get coffee.
Yeah.
Like, we need
Yeah.
to visit, because she was willing to have this conversation with me that did not digress into insults. It was just like, here's my beliefs based on this. And so we got, like, that's how you build these bridges with people, you know. You get to meet these people that you might not otherwise come into contact with, and you can develop the best possible connections through like a little bit of like conflict, a little bit of like, you know, we don't see eye to eye. That's where the best conversations come from. As long as you're not using covert abuse tactics, you're not straw manning, you're not doing the red herring BS, you're not, you know, resorting to like ad hominems and whatnot, and you just stick to like your, you know, your opinions and why and the facts and whatnot, you can have a really, you're not going to agree. And I think people need to get comfortable with like, we're not going to see eye to eye, and that we just have to like work around that instead of feeling this compulsion to smooth it over and make it okay. I guess live with the tension. It's fine. You'll get used to it.
They're definitely avoiding conflict, but they're not even like the Coos Bay example. No, you know, why not come up to me after the meeting or call me later and be like, hey, look, I'm blah blah blah, the superintendent. I'm probably not going to be able to answer any of your questions, but I just wanted to let you know that I am upset. You can express emotion. You can be like, I'm frustrated. I'm concerned about this situation. You can be very ambiguous, and you could be like, so do you have any questions? Again, I've been advised by my lawyer that there's really not too much I can answer, but I can try. I want to try because I care. You seem like someone who cares. You spent your Monday or Tuesday, I think it was Monday afternoon to come down here and speak. You must obviously be concerned on some level. So like where's the tact in that, right?
Humanity, the human connection.
No, I don't get that. And you know, when I spoke at the meeting, I addressed the Henry Delaney thing, the Northwest Fitness, and then I talked about they have an old nature trail there at Blossom Gulch. The meeting was at Blossom Gulch Elementary, or what used to be Blossom Gulch Elementary, and they had an old nature trail there. And I, you know, told them that I'd like to see it rehabilitated. I would offer to help, and I think it would be a great thing if anybody's interested. You know, like I offered up kind of things that we could work together on and find common ground on. And I mean, it's only 2 days. I got to give them more time, I guess. They're probably very busy, but I mean, again, the amount of time they spent talking about all the other things at that meeting, and then to spend no time addressing, you know, real things that are happening in the community.
Yeah.
That's really concerning to me. It really
It's not a
bothers
social
me.
hour. It's a work session.
Right.
You know, and it is the kind of, I know that it's such a small town that everybody wants to be friends. And I just wish that I could get people to embrace that you can have tension and still like a person. Like you can know you disagree and you can not always get along, and you can still be friends with the person. Like, but you can't avoid conflict to preserve this superficial friendship at the cost of real work getting done. And at this point, I think it's fair to say that real work is not getting done. If we've got these 3 instances, if you want to include the waterfall clinic, I guess they couldn't really have known about that guy. I don't think he had any priors, and they got rid. I don't know that they could have done anything to better with that situation. Obviously, their president is awful. And again, that's a good example of that internal communication that you were sent, where the president was like, I stand by you, I support you. And maybe the lady needs to get some friends so she doesn't feel the need to align herself with accused predators. Because that guy disappeared quick enough to indicate that he probably did what he was accused of.
Oh yeah, he's gone. And he has done it at other places, and I think that's what he's going to do. He's just going to move on. Brandon Sada makes a good point here.
He's so
part of the problem you guys are talking about actually stems from a national level of the polarization of 2 national parties that try to split everybody into 2 categories. When people start to argue, it's always in an us versus them, and people tend to forget that we are supposed to be neighbors. yes, we can have different opinions on something and we can still be friends. I love that. Right. And it's not also even always a two-party thing. Like there's many different perspectives. And just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean they're on the other side. It just, they've had a different life
Yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So
for
there's
sure.
a really, can I geek out on you with some behavioral stuff for a moment? So this unfortunately comes down to two-party system. When I lived in New York City, I worked for a nonpartisan political organization as a systems analyst. And one of the things that I learned through both education of behavioral psychology and working in the political systems field is that the human process of choice is what has manifested the system. The system is not a top down. Believe it or not, the system is an organic manifestation of human behavior. Because what happens is when we're presented with choices, and pretty like humans all do this, animals probably do it too. If we're given choices, so if we're given two choices, we get upset because we feel like we're not being given a choice. Two choices makes us feel trapped. Four choices makes us feel overwhelmed and we get analysis paralysis. Three choices works perfectly because you immediately eliminate one choice and then you get to choose between two. So it ultimately is always, no matter how you set up a system, choice will always narrow down like right away. Can happen pretty quick, down to two choices. And so you almost can't get out of the two-party system because it is a manifestation of the process of choice. We can fix gerrymandering though.
Yeah, I wish we had more options than two parties.
It doesn't even work. We do. We actually do. We have people create third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh.
Right.
I looked
Just doesn't
today.
work out.
There's like 8 parties, 9 parties or something that I could
Randy
join.
sent me a screenshot of like all the part. It was a drop down. It was like 10 or 15 different parties.
Was it that
I guess
many?
the second.
Okay, yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Don't even recognize all of them, but yeah, and I can be what is it called? Partisan at times, you know. I have pretty strong beliefs in conservative values. So when I look at the, like, for example, the Democrat Party platform, it actually makes me like very concerned for the direction of our country when I look at it from their perspective. But I also understand that them looking at the Republicans, it concerns them, and they might project certain things that they don't like about the Republicans onto me. So associating myself with the Republican Party is sometimes complicated, and so I try not to do that with them. Right, when somebody tells me they're a Democrat or a liberal, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're like an old, right, that they're like an old school liberal, you know, that they're kind of because didn't it used to be like the working party? Like it's actually kind of flipped, the Republican and Democratic Party.
Yeah,
who they
yeah, it hasn't it, in the last 20 years or so. Yeah.
So I kind of, you know, I try and look at it from that perspective. So I'm learning. I'm new to this, people, right? Like you gotta, you know, I'm not a traditional politician. I'm just a guy, and I think Brandy's the same way. Well, you're not a guy, but you're just a human being trying to represent the community the best way you can. And
Right.
maybe we come from different communities, but I don't know. I talk with so many people in Coos County and beyond, and I just really don't think the leaders that are in these elected positions reflect our values. Like, and I'm talking like 3/4 of the people who live around here have a pretty, you know, when you bottle it down to like a specific core set of values, I think you can. Like, it would be nice to like write that down someday, right? Like, because there's common ground there. There's common values that we all have in Coos County, or almost all of us have, and I just don't see that reflected in our leadership's decisions. Anyways, Brandon, if you're still watching and you want to come on the show, you're welcome. Send me a text and I'll send you a link, and you can
He's
come
a
on
good speaker too. I was really impressed. He seems like
very
a really
well researched
person.
Yeah, could give a little spiel on his race. I think somebody, let me look for comment
So
pretty
I was
early
actually
on.
noticing on my ballot, because I am a county person, I live out in the sticks. The hospital board I don't get to vote on. Yeah.
Maybe you're part of like Coquille Hospital District or something.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
they're in different.
They're different taxing districts. That's essentially what it is. And I believe the Bay Area Hospital doesn't actually even levy a tax. It's like a very interesting taxing district. But Angela said many people are saying it's too late to save the hospital, but she's still spreading the word on who to vote for. Yeah, I like Brandon's plan that he has put forward. I've read almost all of it, and I think he's done a really good job doing his research, trying to figure out an alternative solution, and trying to get people excited about a hospital board, which is not typically something people would get excited about. So if you don't know who to vote for, look into Brandon Sada, type his name into Facebook, and I'm sure you'll come up with some stuff. He's got I think it's like savebah.org, savebayareahospital.org is the website you can go to. Let me just type that in.
And he has great experience. You know, one of the things that he pointed out on Rob's show is that some of these people on the board have no experience in the medical field, medical industry. They're just people in the community. And, you know, that's a really good point. That's like people asking me to be on the school board and me saying, well, I don't have kids. It's just not the right fit for me. I can't imagine if you don't have any experience in this field, you know, I don't know.
And you don't necessarily, like, again, you're supposed to be a representative of the community. So like in all these districts, you don't have to have like an immense amount of experience, but
they're like people's wives and stuff. It's all very incestuous.
Right.
I would like to see an end to that.
But it's very nice that Brandon has worked in the industry. He's been, I think he was a traveling nurse at one point. So he's been around at different types of structured hospitals. So this is the site, savebah.org, if people want more information on that. But yeah, there's it's like you want to mix, I think, too, right? Like you want some people on the board who have had experience in the industry, and then I think you want representatives from the community, right? If everyone's taxes are going into it, you should have a representative that actually has no skin in the game other than taxes. Like a school board should have somebody on it that doesn't have kids, is not a teacher, has no ties to the school board, because they would be representative of probably
that
large
demographic of taxpayers.
Right. Yeah, who just have no ties to the school district, and they should have a voice too. They should have a voice. They should be able to chime in on conversations. They should be in executive sessions and give that perspective of the community who's contributing their money, but really don't have a say right now.
That's fair. Yeah,
I'm a little biased. I'm running for school board, and I don't have kids, and I'm not a teacher.
You're running for college board, though.
I'm running for both.
The North End School Board and the College Board. Okay.
Coos Bay Coos Bay School District. Yeah, I'm running against Arnie Robland. I almost said his wife's name. His wife is running against Brandon. Arlene Robland is running against Brandon for the Bay Area Hospital Board. So very complicated.
I kind of wish
it's not complicated.
Would kind of have a little bit more like consideration for like spread the power around a little bit. It's just very incestuous. And it's maybe like these, I'm sure in their mind, they're like, yeah, well, no one else is stepping up to do it. Sometimes you got to step down to create a space for people to step up. And if you don't have people stepping up, maybe you guys in a position of leadership need to do a better job of stewarding new people into these positions.
That right there. Yes. Absolutely. It's every leader's responsibility is to nurture the next guard or whatever you call it. 100%. But it's funny, like, right, they'll say, oh, we need more people involved. They always want the community involved. But then when they get involved, they're like, no, not that guy.
Not you.
We don't, not him. Like North Bend, they always put out like, oh, we always want to talk. We always want to talk. Well, but you don't answer my emails. Like, like they put out a thing on DEI, right? Discrimination, these policies. And I asked, can you define discrimination? They wouldn't. I wanted to know what classes of people, because they said they'll, what was it? It was preference will be given to minority owned businesses was on one of the
I
websites.
remember that. That was really messed up.
I wanted them to define what those minorities are. Just give me a list. What are the minorities that you will give preference to? They would not answer. So it's like stuff like that. Like, see, you want involvement, but you won't give. And I wasn't mean or rude about it. It's just a question. It's a simple question. If you're giving preference, you should at least know who's on the list of preferential treatment, right?
Sure.
It's simple.
Sure.
They can't answer it. You know why they can't answer it? Because it would be discrimination.
Racist.
And it would be against the law to tell me that you're going to give preference to everybody but straight white male business owners. So they're stuck. But anyway, so they want people involved. They talk about, oh, we want people to be involved in our budget process and know more about the budget. Well, last year, I was the only citizen, like non-employee, non-board member on their budget committee that sat in it was 2 nights of meetings. I sat and watched all the presentations. They wouldn't let me ask questions until the second night. I had to come back the second night. I mean, I was going to come back anyway, but you know what I mean? I had to reserve my questions until the second night. You know, they want involvement, but then when the involvement comes, they want to control it and silence it. It's crazy. All this has to change, and it's up to you guys. Anybody watching, it's up to you to start, and a lot of you are. Like by watching this, you're probably already involved, right? You're engaged, you're trying to learn more, you're trying to get information, you're trying to figure out who the players are. So I appreciate every single one of you. But we gotta work harder, we gotta step up our game, we gotta find more people to help us, because this really matters, and we've been complacent for far too long, right?
Absolutely. And I can kind of say it a little bit at this point to everyone who has kind of been like, Brandy, why don't you get involved? In January, there will be an announcement.
Okay. She's getting involved. Watch out, people. See, they're going to do the same thing to you. It's going to be
because everybody's like, why don't you put your name on the ballot?
Yeah. Life's complicated. I get it. No, like totally. You know, would I have loved more people to put their name on the ballot this primary or in this spring special election? Absolutely. But I do understand that people have to figure out their lives and their, you know, all those dealings, and it's not always the right time for everybody.
It can be.
It's probably not the right time for me, but I'm going to do it. So we'll we'll push forward, right? And so coming up 1 year from now is the primary election, and you've got 2 county commissioner seats, sheriff, clerk, city council seats up in the following fall. So we've got a lot of stuff. I know that might seem pretty far away for people, but you should start thinking about it now. Start positioning,
thinking about it,
getting involved.
The ballot access opens up for these positions this year. So in September, ballot access opens up, and you're going to have candidates applying for these positions that are opening up for the primary in May. So come January, I'll make my announcement. So you guys
I look forward to that. I mean, anybody who makes an announcement, even if we don't agree, I mean, more new people getting involved is going to be better.
It's the same way.
The current leadership is too interconnected. They're too set in their ways. It's a whole network of people that are controlling things and making it happen in one direction only.
And you'll be, you know, they'll bring you in and include you as long as you align with their vision. And I hate to say it, but they're prioritizing their vision at the expense of the majority of community members' vision.
And speaking of community members' vision, look who we have here. We have Brandon. Did I jump the gun and put you on too soon? Sorry.
You're good. I wasn't anticipating the conversation. I was just listening while I was washing the dishes.
Oh, no worries.
As one does.
Yeah.
We were talking about elections and people getting involved, so it's a good segue.
So tell us about your platform.
Well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward in that the hospital board, including the CEO right now, just haven't done what they need to do to keep the hospital afloat. And they've decided that since they're incapable of doing it, they're going to hire 100 more administrators, essentially, because that's what Quorum is. They're a management firm. They have 115 employees, and every one of them is basically a manager. It's not a healthcare system like they keep trying to tell everybody. If it's Peace Health or if it was Kaiser or Mayo Clinic, that would come with doctors, that would come with nurses. But all Quorum is a management firm. It's basically them saying, we don't know what we're doing. You got to find someone else who does. So we going from 40% of salaries to being administrators, top heavy administration, to 100 more administrators. So the plan really is we need a new CEO, we need new board members, we need to do financial audits and see what's really going on with the finances. Someone just brought this up to me today. Before Brian Moore was hired, we had $140 million in the black. We were not in debt. And now we are in debt. So within the 4 or 5
Brian was the CEO?
Before Brian was CEO, we had $140 million, $60 to $80 million of cash on hand. We were positive. Now we were in negative.
Are they blaming COVID?
So that's all Brian Moore says is it's COVID, it's payer mix issues, but you can't keep using excuses. At some point, you have to just take accountability and say, it's my fault. You know, I think I've told this to a lot of people. I would not feel so bad if Brian Moore said, sorry, I'm not the person who can do this. I need to hire Quorum. That'd be a different story, but they're trying to paint the image as Brian Moore's doing a good job. He can't help it. There's external circumstances that are affecting the entire country. And yes, that's true. But all the experts and all the research also says that when a hospital's failing, it's also due to poor management and poor leadership. You can't 100% blame it on the same factors that are affecting everybody. Because if that was the case, every hospital in this country would be failing.
Exactly.
It's what we hear from everyone. Whether it's a question about the city council or the college or any of these municipalities or boards, it's like always the resounding hymn you get, which is like, it's somebody else's fault. It's some higher up entity's fault. It's the state, it's the federal government, it's society. It's like, the one thing I liked about Joe Biden was a tagline he said, which is, he said, the buck stops here. I don't think he meant it in practice, but I liked it. You know what I mean? Where is that? Where does the buck stop with Bay Area Hospital?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I try to teach my children all the time is I don't need excuses. I try to say that a lot. We make mistakes. Things happen. It's not about why it happened. It's about our response after it happens. I do the same thing with my soccer kids. I don't care if you make a bad pass. I don't care if you lose the ball. The only thing that matters is how you respond to the mistake. It's about taking responsibility for your mistake and ignoring it for a moment and just focusing on recovery. And at this point, the board and the hospital CEO have not admitted to their mistakes. Not one of them has said, we could have done this better, we could have done that better. 100% has been excuses. And now they want to bring on a new set of managers to solve their problems.
Hello. You're being broadcast on 7 continents across the world. No, it's all good. Well, how do you find the time for all this? You look like you're in the midst of a birthday party or something. You've got balloons everywhere.
There was a signing party at the high school the other day. One of the kids I used to coach he's going to Landfield College, and he got signed to play on the soccer team. So we got invited and had a little speech over there too. And they gave us the balloons.
How fun.
With them.
Very cool. How much do you coach?
I mean, I coach U14 twice a week, and I coach U6 twice a week. And then I have games on Saturdays.
Cool. Brandon, I wanted to ask you about your canvassing that you've done. So your name is not on my ballot. I live way out in the country, out in the sticks. So I don't think I'm in that taxing district. So it must be just the Bay Area Hospital taxing district. I must be in the Coquille Hospital one.
Probably, yeah.
Do you know what the boundaries of your taxing district are? Would it be all of Coos Bay, North Bend, like Lakeside, or just
there's about 1,500 residents in Lakeside and a portion of Charleston. It's a really weird looking map. If I could find it, I can post it in the group chat. But it's a map that was made in like 1975. And they still refer to the original hard copy map when they're kind of looking at it. And you can kind of see these lines and squiggles that sort of circle. And, it's divided up between the 5 hospitals. And our lines are about the same size as the other hospitals, even though we're a larger hospital system. And they're acute care hospitals and we're a general care hospital. And so that was one of the things that UFCW had proposed that's getting all that criticism, is that they proposed about changing those health district lines so that it's more representative of the population we see, because the hospital sees patients all the way down to Brookings.
I bet.
I mean, people drive all the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did discuss the possibility of changing those lines around, but that wasn't my proposal. I like the idea. I like the concept of maybe creating something that's more modern and more accurate. Maybe you can base it on some other data points, but not necessarily some arbitrary line that was drawn in 1970s.
Right. It's definitely time to reevaluate that for sure.
I'm not saying we absorb the other people. I'm just saying we should consider some changes. That's all.
Yeah. Like reevaluate it. Look at it again. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you done any canvassing? Have you done any door knocking, sent people out, had any kind of
I have an entire team of people doing it.
Cool.
I basically just delegate. I say, this is what I need done. This is what I need. And I had my campaign manager, Akila, he's actually a wrestling coach at SWAC. He had some of his wrestling kids doing some canvassing today for me. They've been going door to door and getting out paperwork. Because, I'm one person. How many people could I possibly know? And I have my 2 kids. After about 3 houses, my son would be done with it.
Right.
So I've had to delegate almost everything. The signs, I put up a few of myself, but for the most part, I've been handing my friends and followers signs, and they've just been doing it for me. I'm pretty good at delegating, apparently.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
There's signs. And then Christy is one of them. She helps.
All right. She said she's all for including the entire county into the health district. She thinks it would be more representative of the people the hospital serves.
She's not wrong.
No, yeah, she's spot on.
County goes to BAH. If there's like a major situation.
And it doesn't pull a tax, right? They don't levy a property tax, is my understanding. Is that yours?
That whole part of it is a gray area to me. I barely even understand why we can't do a tax levy. Brian Moore's tried to say it, and I get it, sort of, but at the same time, I don't understand why we can't tax people. It feels like it's something that easily could be amended or given an exception. Because from my understanding, because we weren't taxing and they changed some laws around, now we can't tax because our number's 0, and you can't go from 0 to something. I don't know. The whole thing seems weird.
My understanding
that too.
Yeah, my understanding of it is these.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. We're delayed.
When people try to explain to you the way this stuff works, and I usually feel like a dumb person, but I'm like, man, this is really complicated, and it almost seems like it's how could it need to be this complicated? There has to be. It just, like you said, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, I've never had someone actually explain it. I've only heard the explanation from the board or Troy or Brian Moore, their explanation. I've never actually sat down with any of the tax people and had them tell me, but maybe Chris knows.
Same. Yeah. And maybe we would get real answers if we went that direction.
My understanding of it is that when you create a taxing district, there's what's called the permanent tax rate. So when you at the initial genesis, the creation of that taxing district, you have to specify what your taxing rate is going to be, and you can't change it. So like our county is in that state, right? They set it at a certain amount. It's like $1 and some change per 1,000 assessed value, and that's what it is forever. You can choose not to levy it, but you can't increase it. And that's my understanding. You can do special levies, like you could put something on the ballot, but you can only do 5 years at a time, like a bond or a levy. It's only like a certain period of time. And so there's those constructs, but besides that, you'd have to probably form a new taxing district or dissolve one and then reform it in order to change the permanent rate. But that's my understanding from talking with the county treasurer and some other people.
Yeah, and now that you say that, I talked to John Briggs, the old mayor. He was a CPA, and he was telling me that you can do what's called an OK bond, but it was only for operational things. So you wouldn't be able to necessarily use it for salaries, but you could use it if you wanted to start a cath lab or make an expansion in the cath lab, which would bring us revenue in the future. And within a few years, you could get your money back. You could pay back that bond immediately. I mean, almost within 3 years. There's a lot of solutions. It's not just quorum or die, based on how they keep telling us.
Yeah, I also don't trust the people who are telling us, so that's one thing for sure. I pretty much trust anyone but Troy Kirtland's at this point.
Yeah, and I think we're in the last 6 days of this election, so we need people to vote, and that's the key here. Is turnout's usually 4,000 people. I think that's how Troy got elected, unopposed, with 4,000 votes. So we're talking 5,000 people, 8,000 people maybe are voting in these elections, and we should be having bigger numbers than that. I mean,
should we have like rallies with megaphones down on the boardwalk like all the blue hairs do for their sex clubs?
my problem with it is it's 6 days. We have 6 days. I feel like most people have already filled their ballots out.
Right, yeah.
If anything, we need to just have a rally in front of the hospital that says get out. Just maybe they'll just resign and we can just step in early, because I won't even be on office until July. So we got another month of them just tearing it down. And then don't even get me started on the fact that they just appointed Arlene Roebland to position 4 until the elections. She's running for the
pretty weird.
And they just decided to appoint her to position 4 temporarily for whatever reason they believe she needed.
So was there any sort of transparency around? Did they offer out to the public that there was a position available? Did they give an application, put it out online that people could fill out and apply? Like,
I did have my campaign manager Akila apply for the job by messaging Denise, the secretary, and everybody, and he got a random reply of, "Oh, I'll let them know." They never
brought in for an interview.
Never brought in.
That's
they
bullshit.
Never approached me about it. I mean, why not talk to both candidates and say, "Hey, I have this opportunity to go on the board. Would you like to?" And maybe talk
like
to
you're
both.
running for the position. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the worst part is they appointed her during a confidential meeting the other day. It was not announced publicly, and then at this recent meeting on Tuesday, Troy says that they had an error and they didn't dot their I's and cross their T's correctly. So now they're going to have to reappoint her. And then at the last meeting, they appointed her again on Tuesday. So they've technically appointed her twice now without public notice and without letting everybody know that it's happening. So there's definitely something fishy going on.
I mean, that's beyond fishy. That's bullshit. No one should accept that. No one in this community should accept that as okay.
Yeah, I filed a complaint to the ethics committee commission, and I would advise anybody who wants to take the 5 minutes to just file a report, just to say, hey, I'm a member. I don't like this. This is not okay. It doesn't make sense. You can leave the position
what's the
open.
website?
It is. It's the Oregon Ethics Commission. So Oregon.gov/OGEC. And then there's a little section you scroll down and you can file a complaint.
That's crazy. I mean, we shouldn't even have to take it this far. That's really shitty that these people in these positions do that. I mean, they should know better. Troy puts himself out there as this honorable citizen, you know, and that's.
They're just putting all their friends in.
Yeah,
right.
Really. That's the worst part is, you know, I wouldn't mind so much if it was a neutral person who's not running for the position, just some random Joe or anybody.
Or like you said, just leave it open. It's not necessary to have every seat filled at the moment when there's an election.
The other seat that Derek O'Brien filled in, because he was also appointed, that seat was open for months before they filled that position. So it's
that's wild.
You can't do anything until the election's over with, basically. Although you can keep this in the back of your head, if things get worse, technically we can do a recall. It happened in 1985. This hospital had an issue with the CEO and the board, and I think all but one board member was resigned because they petitioned to recall the board members, and the CEO resigned. And it was something very similar where they were trying to build some administrative office building that was separate from the hospital, and it was going to be millions of dollars. They called it the Taj Mahal of administrative offices, and it was so they could work around hospital code and not have to. It was a big ordeal, but basically they set up a booth in Pony Village Mall and got enough signatures to pull the board out, because that's always an option. 10% of the voters sign a petition, we can recall any person on the board.
I just prefer the route of getting people in there through a normal election like we have right now. So you've got Brandon, you could get this guy onto that board, and look at him. He's on this podcast. He was on the Rob Taylor Report. He's out there on social media. He's available for comment. We did an interview after soccer practice. I mean, you're out there in the community. The kids love you. I saw that at practice. I mean, you're available. You're out there, and you're not a politician. And I think we need more of that.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris, can you throw a link to his Rob Taylor show in the comments?
I can afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
That was how long was that interview? That was kind of most of his show, wasn't it? That was pretty good.
52 minutes. Yeah.
All right. That's good. It goes fast.
Yeah.
Rob and I did a 4-hour show once.
You and Rob?
Yeah. Yep. A couple weeks ago. 4 hours. Over 4 hours. It was the one that you weren't on the show.
Yeah.
I brought Rob on as the co-host, and
yes,
it was probably my fault. I'm sure. Yep, it was your birthday.
Yeah.
So, Brandy, are you running for mayor? I think you should.
No, but I am going to be putting my name on a ballot in January, and because of my current employment situation, I will not be making an announcement until January. So stay tuned.
We'll wait for January.
Yeah,
Jeff says you got 3 votes from his household, Brandon. So you got at least 3.
I just listening to you, I said this person seems like they'd be a good person for a leadership position in this town.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard you talk, but you definitely know what you're saying.
Thank you. My background is in behavioral science and systems analysis. I've worked for the last few years in an HR professional client services capacity with a local firm, and making a career transition, dabbling into life and health coaching. I got certified, and it's amazing. I'm working with clients now and kind of building up my business so that I can pay my bills while I continue for a position. So announcement pending.
Good. Yeah, so you know cognitive dissonance all too well. And that is what is striking our current board right now. Their inability to accept that the hiring of Brian Moore was a mistake. So they've doubled down and they've protected him, and they are just doing what he tells them to do. He does these meetings with the board. He talks one-on-one with Troy sometimes. You know, the board's supposed to operate as an entity, and he does not do it that way, unfortunately.
Singling people out and kind of grooming them.
From a person that was on the board before, they said that they used to pull members in 2 by 2 into the office and talk to them 2 at a time, because it's technically a loophole, right? You're supposed to talk to the whole board, and the moment you get more than 2 board members, it becomes an official meeting. So they use that little tiny loophole and just talk to 2 of them at the time, which is sort of kind of also illegal, because that's considered chain meetings or chain something, where you have a meeting
law.
Yeah, and then you lead to another meeting, which leads to another, and you're trying to influence that when you do all get together, you can convince everybody at the same time to do something.
Well, conspiratory.
And that's not cool when I'm on the board. I promise you that.
Yeah, it's a shame. I met with Brian by pure coincidence in like 2019. I kind of had a health situation that required an ER visit, and it did not go well. Like, it went real south. And so I ended up meeting with Brian over it. And this was it. He would have been just newly brought in at this point. And it was such a good conversation. We talked for about an hour, and it was just such a good conversation about how the institution needs to do better. The systemic problems that created the experience I had. And he was so motivated to address this stuff. You know, he was such a good listener, and he was so empathetic and understanding. And it is a shame to see that he has not done well. I don't know what went wrong, and I wish I did. I would love to get in there and pick at it.
I mean, he's good at talking. I'll take that.
Yeah.
He's very good at talking.
And that's why you always have to rely on action. And I never did see that action from him. He and I did speak of action steps. I followed up with him, and unfortunately it did go nowhere, which is how you know what I mean? Because
you're not the only one. There's lots and lots of people out there who the reason they quit that hospital is because of leadership. The reason they're not there anymore is because of leadership. I've spoken to 2 separate people who used to work in the HR, and they're like, nope, I'm never going back as long as those people are in charge. And I was like, well, could you tell me why? I'm like, I don't really want to get into the details. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that sucks. It always sucks when you lose good people to leadership, because I feel like leaders are so much easier to replace than good workers. Like, everybody wants to be the leader. You can find a bunch of people that will volunteer for the position, but like a good, solid worker is tough to replace.
No, yeah, and that's the other issue too. Is you let's say you lose a really good manager, and then you try to replace them, and the only staff you have is a slightly inexperienced person, and that person just can't fill the shoes because they don't have a mentor, they don't have the experience. They don't have the know-how, and then you now have a manager who is doing the best they can, but they just can't perform, and that's all we got because, you know, we have a workforce issue at this hospital. And that's one of the things I would love for Chris to get on SWAC, because then we could create a work pipeline between the 2 sister entities.
So they have an I am not totally familiar with how the ranks of nursing goes. I think you have LPNs and RNs, and then like physician assistant. I don't know which one is, but I believe SWAC does have an LPN program, right?
And an RN, and then a physician assistant's technically medical doctor. The next step up would be nurse practitioner.
Okay, and
but yeah, you get the right idea.
They don't have the nurse practitioner, right?
No, I believe that one's that's a master's doctorate program type thing. You know, I mean, my vision of SWAC would be that every job that the hospital has, there would be some sort of course or certification at SWAC that could fill that position.
That would be amazing.
From billing to whatever the job is that requires some sort of training, if SWAC could offer that training, we could share the costs essentially, or share the job, and we could cross train back and forth between the two entities. It would be phenomenal because really special entities are supposed to work together. It's the whole point of having them. Technically, they could even merge by the bylaws, and you could form a super district. Technically, you could create like a teaching hospital where it's a hospital and
cool.
at the same time, and then you could super fund them together. But that's a pipe dream in of itself.
So that is the what do they call it? Multipliers. So when I worked on some stuff in New York City with one of the mayoral candidates, when Bloomberg was on his way out, and the guy had this wonderful, rich history of working with community-funded projects that they designed so that they all work together, so that the special bus route serviced the special needs center, serviced the special housing center, special service like the shopping center, and it connected all of these people that needed social services to each other, and they called it this like multiplier effect, where they make the services more valuable because they are collaborative. And it's same approach, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the solutions I'm thinking of, and the multiplier effect also works in economy. So if the hospital were to buy from local resources, it would have a multiplier effect. If we bought meat from our local dairy or local cattle farmers, that money goes back into the Coos County economy. And research says for every dollar that the hospital would spend, we get back $1.40 in return. So one of the problems our hospital and county have is we do have a poor demographic. And if you were to use the hospital as it was designed as an economic engine, we could be hiring more people. We could be investing more of the money the hospital spends back into the economy rather than outsourcing. Every time we outsource, that's money being drained from Coos County and being dumped into another county somewhere.
You're right.
Exactly what that is. They're going to take their profits, they're going to take their management fees and send it back to Tennessee. And that money is gone from our county forever.
You're right. Absolutely correct.
When I bought my restaurant in California, the guy I bought it from had no suppliers. He drove to another county, like imagine driving from here to Roseburg, drove to another county to go to Costco and buy all of his supplies once a week. He loaded up his truck, brought all the supplies back because those were the cheapest prices, and he didn't like dealing with people with suppliers, so he would do it all himself. And that's how he was running the business. And I actually lowered some of the prices, but kept most of them the same. And I got all local suppliers, like our lettuce. We had an actual farm growing lettuce just for us. I got a ground beef supplier, chicken supplier, used a local dairy, all local. Everything is as local as I could get it. When the farmer's market would open across the street, I'd go over and buy as much as I could and form relationships with them. And yeah, it cost me a hell of a lot more, right? And I even tried to get as much organic stuff as possible. But by doing that and keeping the prices the same, I increased the customer base. I like quadrupled the customer base. And we were able to keep all that money locally, support people. I mean, just the lettuce alone, and we had tons of French fries. So we had a local potato supplier in California. I mean, it was like 100 miles away, but it was that's local, and it was cool, like to be able to do that and implement it and see it actually work. I know exactly what you're talking about, Brandon, and it can be done and it should be done. So there's a cafeteria right at the hospital. So let's source locally for stuff at the cafeteria to the best of our ability.
There's a place,
that would be really
my
cool.
neighbor has some incredible grass-fed, grass-finished beef for sale. I love it. Love it. Like that's one of the best parts of living in a place like this. I literally get my chicken eggs from my neighbor. I'm like living.
You don't have your own chickens?
Living like
where have you been?
Chickens, you need some.
There you go.
Yeah.
No,
so Brandon, I spoke at the Coos Bay school district meeting, and I mentioned it was at Blossom Gulch, and I mentioned that there are people in the community that are possibly interested in doing a community garden on the old Blossom Gulch Elementary School grounds. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that because you had mentioned at one point. I just thought that was such a cool idea. I walked all around the property earlier this week.
I absolutely love, like, one of my big passions is growing food. I have that whole. She's not giving us. Silly.
She said she'll be back. The camera followed her down the hallway.
The food forest growing is a big thing for me. I think community gardens would be amazing. Could you imagine if the hospital used the property around them to do community food growing? But
that would be so cool.
The Blossom Gulch one is a beautiful little property in that actually we have 4 acres right behind Blossom Gulch. If you were to just follow that little salmon trail, that salmon river that kind of goes up through there, the property my wife and I purchased, the salmon end up in our backyard over there. And we've been talking about it for years now, is to convert that into like community garden, community orchard type concepts. But we just can't get to it because of the location. So I'm still kind of working on that. But man, community gardens in this area in Oregon, I've never ever in my life been able to grow so much so easily. 10 months out of the year, you can grow food around here. And you can grow every species of everything. You can grow peaches, you can grow apples, you can grow pears, you can grow cherries. I mean, there's no reason why anyone should go hungry if we were to all just convert our green grass yards into vegetable gardens and food forests. And that hospital forest is 20 something acres. You could convert that into a food forest and we could feed the whole county with it, let alone just worrying about paying the bills.
Right. You have all these taxing districts like the school district and the college and the cities. They have all this land out there. And some of it they'll claim, oh, it's marsh, or there's some environmental reason they can't put houses on it. But you can develop it to some extent, right? Or like the Blossom Gulch property, the back of the school, like around the end, it's like a track. It's like a concrete track. But there's 2 fruit trees. So, I mean, I think it's great that they at least planted 2, but you know what I mean? It's just open space that's not being used. And you're totally right. I would love, win or lose with these elections, I would love to help you. It would be so cool to work together on something like that.
Yeah, there's actually a thing called, I don't know if you've ever heard of chinapas. It's the Aztec word for floating garden. Mexico City used to be a lake, and they used to use these chinapa systems, which are basically elevated garden beds that are floating on top of the lake with channels, and it makes the most fertile land possible. They use willow trees to stake it and the branches to weave the baskets, and they pick up the muck from the bottom of the lake and pile it inside the garden beds, and then they would plant all the fruits and vegetables. It was enough to basically feed their entire empire.
Wow.
But these chinapa systems are coming back in Mexico, and they're starting to do grants and stuff for them, but they actually improve every aspect of the wetland. The wetland's supposed to be a filter It's supposed to clean the water for us. So every time rain comes down into the wetlands, it goes through the grasses, through the willows, through the microbial life that lives inside there, and cleans the water. Then it goes into our stream. Then it goes to our drinking. You technically are cleaning the water as you go through wetlands, and that's why they're protected, right? You're not supposed to mess with them because that's our drinking water. And then something like this Bay Area Hospital Forest, the way it's sloped, it's actually cleaning and filtering all the water as it goes into that little stream that makes its way towards Pony Village Mall. So we need land to stay undeveloped in order to keep wildlife and the ecosystem.
The watershed.
We need those places to stay alive, but when you do things like grow chinapas or food forests, the only thing you're doing is improving the ecosystem. Adding diversity to any system is always a good thing.
I wonder if the water is brackish.
I love Brandon's metaphor. Anyways, adding diversity to systems. Not that kind of diversity.
Monoculture does not work.
Yeah. And people here are super into that kind of stuff too.
I've convinced 3 of my neighbors to start food forests in the front yard just because they come here and they're like, "You do all this here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just get some free wood chips from the wood chip people because they're trying to constantly dump them on someone's front yard." Oh yeah, and then you start from there. And I'd be happy to help people do it too. You could buy a rootstock for $2 or $3, $5, and learn to graft it. They got those gardening clubs. They've got all sorts of people who could teach you. I just went down the street
cool.
to their neighbor's house and dug up a bunch of strawberries because they're clearing it out for grass, and I didn't want them to die. So I spent half the day digging up strawberries and fruit trees just so that they would still be alive instead of being bulldozed.
They're tearing out the strawberries and fruit trees to put in grass.
I tried very hard to convince them, but they did not want to do anything but grass. I know.
Isn't that nuts? Oh
I tried. I saved everything that I could possibly save. I spent hours digging stuff up just to bring it here, bring it to my other neighbors' houses. I had the kids down the street digging with me. I was like, "Come on over and get some free strawberries and go plant them at your house." I had like 8 kids over there at one point doing it with me.
Cool.
They grow so well around here. Strawberries. We've got some turning red. I'm pretty excited. We have alpine strawberries too, which are pretty much like almost 10 months out of the year bear fruit. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
They're tiny though. They're super tiny, but they're good. They're delicious.
Yeah,
and they don't shoot off runners. They're like a bush.
How do you keep the animals out of them?
We fenced in the whole property.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feed the tops of my strawberries to the sheep and to the rabbits.
There you go.
Yeah, they can eat it. It'll be good for them.
Is the video frozen on my end?
It's frozen on me too, but I still see you guys and hear you guys. So I don't know.
We can hear you as well. It froze at a wonderful position.
Yeah. And my eyes.
Deep thought.
Yeah.
Contemplating the Earth's problems.
I had my video card just said something to me. It's not very happy right now. I think it's a little too overheated.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Well,
okay. I think I had too many things open and I didn't realize it. Like I said,
this isn't a new computer situation.
I wasn't planning on chatting.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. This has been great. And I think it gives people the opportunity to get to know you and learn about you a little more. So, but yeah.
I'll just call it a night because it is our kids' bedtime, and it usually requires both of us somehow.
Well, all right, man. I appreciate it. Good luck in the election. People, please get educated on your choices and vote appropriately. So thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandy. Thanks, Chris.
Good night. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
That was unfortunate that it froze there, but cool that we can bring people on the fly like that. So
it is really cool, and he's such a neat person. He's so smart. I would encourage everyone to go watch that show with Rob, because he gets really. We just kind of touched on the stuff. He goes really into detail. Hell yeah, nice. Yeah, I was kind of bummed out when I realized that I don't even live in the Bay Area Hospital Taxing District, which is so weird because, like, you don't think of that when you go and you use these facilities all the time. It doesn't
right.
like occur to you that you don't get a say in how they're run, even though you patronize them.
But you know a lot of people in the area, so you can definitely put the word out. I just always encourage people to please don't just like not vote, or don't just not know who you're voting for. Don't just vote because you saw a cool sign, you know. And I've been there, I've done that. I've not voted before. I've just voted, you know, for a couple races because I heard of people and then left the rest of the ballot blank. I get it. I really do. But we have to change. We have to start changing our ways, because it's that complacency, it's that disinterest that
It
I
is.
think's got us to where we are. So I've been part of it. I'm trying to not be part of it anymore. And if I can help anybody else, um, you know, down this path we're going, which is hopefully a much better path than where we've been. Um, let's do it, you know. So that's my
Little
two
by
cents.
little, little
I
by little.
sold Brandon ducks. We had Muscovy ducks. We were interviewing them, and all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, why do we recognize you? And it was because we had sold them ducks off, or maybe we gave them the ducks for free, probably off
Oh, how
Craigslist.
cool!
We had like 40 Muscovy ducks at one point. It was insane, absolutely
How
insane.
cool!
I didn't know they could fly. They would fly up on a roof. It was crazy. But yeah, no. Food forest. He's into the agriculture,
That's
or
cool.
permaculture, I think is what it mainly is called. So would be nice to get that involved on a like higher level in government, right? Like all these spaces, these wasted spaces, turn them into community gardens and stuff. That would be cool. But maybe
Yeah.
that's a pipe dream.
Listen, all we can do is try to move the needle.
We're
All we
trying.
can do is try to get a 1% change in the right direction. And if we can I really would like to see crime drop, property crime, person on person crime. That would improve so many people's quality of life so much. Just that one thing. And I say that one thing as if like, oh, you just do it, and there's a lot that goes into it, but probably the first step would be our leadership actually talking about it.
Yep. A lot of it's conversation. We just need to have different conversations. They've been controlling it or excluding us from the conversation for far too long. So it's time to fight back. I think we're getting there. I'm exhausted.
Oh, I
So
just realized I can see all the comments.
you've never been able to see the comments?
Well, I never looked.
Oh, jeez. Yep.
There's so many.
A lot of people were watching tonight. I didn't advertise this one at all. I've been crazy busy, so I appreciate everybody watching.
Yeah, that's cool.
New people too. So if anybody has feedback for us, please let us know. We can't improve without feedback. So if you want to hear more about something or you want to hear less about something, let us know. We're super eager for feedback.
Telling us like we want to hear less about is helpful in its own way, but really telling us what you want to hear about is more helpful, because it gives us the thing to focus on. So
or what they want to get out of it.
Yeah, or I would imagine a lot of people watch our channel for the same reason I watch other YouTube channels and stuff like that. Entertainment, hanging out, listening to a conversation, like a podcast.
Entertainment. We should be more entertaining.
Should we? I think we're super entertaining.
You're heavily biased.
I have a really low bar too.
Okay. That's
to be
funny.
fair.
Well, I'm gonna call it because I got to get going. I still have work to do from my real job, and quite a busy week left. And we got an election finishing up on Tuesday, so it's been wild. But
Yeah,
any,
yeah.
any last words, thoughts?
Get involved, reach out to us. And I was really disappointed to have someone reach out to me and say, get involved. And then when I reached out to them, it was the weirdest interaction I've had in a long time. So I would say reach out to like someone that you know and trust, and get involved. Find out how you can be an activist, or maybe not an activist. That's not the right word. That's not what I mean.
At this point, that's what we need.
That you can be a person who represents the people in your community who aren't being heard. And I would say, like, you don't have to be a special person to be a leader. Like, we're both just weirdos who,
Hey,
like,
speak for yourself.
I'm just a weirdo who, has some ideas that I want to work with other people on and kind of like brainstorm and problem solve. You don't have to be a perfect person. You don't have to get it right all the time. I know we're super critical, but all we want is people who are going to hold themselves accountable and be honest and transparent and genuine and authentic. And
Genuine and authentic, for sure.
Yeah. So there's opportunities for people to make a difference. So if you're a person who's concerned, don't feel like there isn't room for you, because people are needed, voices are needed, even if it's just backing somebody, you're backing a candidate or being supportive. Jump in there.
For sure. And if people are on the conservative end of the spectrum, the conservative persuasion, next Thursday, 6 o'clock, North Bend High School, we're having a meeting, and we're trying to bring fresh ideas into the party, the Republican Party of Coos County. We're trying to learn how we can better benefit the community and better engage with the community. So we're looking to bring new people in, new leadership, new voting members. So if you're interested in becoming a part of that and having more of a say in what the Republican Party does around here, come to next Thursday's meeting, and we'll have more information about it. But yeah, next Thursday, 6 o'clock, North Bend gym, or North Bend, it's like the multi-purpose room. I don't really know where that is, but anyways, so it'll be fine. Yeah, you'll find it. There's 48 out of 198 what's called a precinct committee precinct committee person. It's like an official voting role in the party, and there's only a quarter of them filled. So we're looking to fill some more of those to get more people involved in decision making, because I don't think we've been making the best decisions because we haven't had a good representation from the community, just like other organizations. So we're trying to improve. So
if you're a person who's like, wow, I'm Republican, or I'm conservative, or I'm party curious, if you're somebody who's on the fence, and you want to check it out, go check it out, just go kind of. And if you're someone who's like, wow, I really haven't heard anything out of the Republican Party, they're not telling me like who to vote for, which you should be doing your own research to be fair, but I haven't seen any candidate endorsements. If you're a person who's wondering like, who are these people and where are they, you're them.
Well, and we're trying to focus on local stuff. This isn't a meeting for Trump's Republican Party. That's what I mean. This is like a meeting to try and figure out how we can understand the conservative party platform and apply that to local issues, actual real issues, not some of this, political ideological battles that are being fought. I mean, some of it does affect us here, but most of it, it's like, come on, do we want crime? Do we want law and order? Which direction do we want to go? Right. So that's a local thing. And I think the Conservative Party has a platform position on that. And so that's what it's about.
The party has the power to help organize around candidates and promote candidates that are going to promote conservative ideas. And so it does start with getting involved in a political, I mean, you don't have to do it this way, but if you want to support conservative candidates, you as an individual can get involved in the party and help do like Brandon was saying, go knock on doors and talk to people. You can help collect signatures. There's tons of, if you're a behind the scenes kind of person, there's tons of opportunity to help spread messages, put up signs. There's all kinds of stuff that can be done. And so if you haven't heard from your local Republicans, it's because they need you. They need you.
And if you're liberal, if you're Democrat, let's work together. Let's find common ground issues. I would love to work with the Democrat Party on some common ground issues. Like I would assume the Democrat Party wants to get a handle on the crime as well. They want to have law and order. Opinion on how it would be executed, but let's figure that out. Let's have those conversations. Without it, this is what we get, right? Without those conversations, this is what we get.
You get run amok. And I don't know if maybe this will make people feel more comfortable, but I'm actually not a Republican. I'm not even particularly conservative. I'm really middle of the road. I align with a lot of the Republican ideals at a federal level, what they have published. Not so, there's a couple items that me and Chris have talked about on the state level that I can't be a part of, but if you're a Democrat or someone who's on the fence or an independent, I'm unregistered, I'm independent, and reach out to us because we still care. You know, just because we don't want to be in a party doesn't mean that we don't care. And just because you're in the Democrat Party doesn't mean that we don't want to work with you, because that's exactly what has to happen.
100%.
Hang out with us. Be our friends.
Come hang. Yeah, next Thursday if you want to hang out, for sure. Even if you're not a Republican, if you're interested, if you're party curious, as Brandy says. But yeah, we're always available. April says, thank you and have a good night. Thank you for watching, April. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us. It is really, really cool that people watch us hang out and talk about this stuff, and that people care about our community and what's going on it and want to hear about and want to hear about it. That's really cool.
It's turned into something. We'll see where it goes. For sure. All right, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next week. It'll be the day after the election, so we'll see what happens. Good luck to everyone running, and good luck to our community.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.